Hey everyone, it's Will, GamerDad, with another video for you. So in today's video, we're going to go over Yakumo as a 5-star, and of course, I'll do a little bit of gameplay and let you know what I think about him. But the most important question of all is he hot or not?
I'm not sure if he looks hot, but his English voice is definitely hot.
Oh yeah, I can agree with you there. Anyways, Yakumo is our newest Shade Magic male DPS husbando. And his VC, I haven't done any quests yet, but you don't need to unlock his entire skill board. At level 3, it should be restore users MP 50% and activate Lunatic. So he has an extra way of activating Lunatic if you don't want to start him in the front line. Though I don't see why you wouldn't want to start him in the front line. That being said, he has some unique mechanics. He also has an MP shield that's always active. Whenever he takes any damage to his HP, half of it is absorbed by his MP bar. And keep in mind that that does limit his ability to attack if you get hit quite a bit. Now, during the end of the turn, he will then restore 50% of damage taken during that turn as MP. And he has other ways of regenerating MP, as you'll see in his moveset shortly. Okay, so moving on, he does have quite a varied kit, but he is the first Lunatic that I can think of where he only has one element. We start with Karma, which is user's int and speed 50% up, increased max damage, magic, this is mental focus for 5 turns, and being that he has a ton of MP, it does have the capped mental focus. It also does damage him and restore that amount of MP, so he can regain his MP when running low. Now, Unchained is the one that gives him something called Overthrow. For those who have Alter Tuva or the Mujima weapons, you'll know what that means. Fighting enemies with unknown levels will give you some benefits against stronger enemies, and of course gives you a status shield and things like that. Now, Toxicity, these other moves aren't nearly as useful. However, this one is a very great mob clearer. If you have 4 or 5 enemies, it's going to do a ton of damage. As you can see, if you have 5 enemies, the multiplier then increases by 9 times. And of course, it does have extra benefits if the enemy is poisoned or pained. And speaking about that, Mana Opener does apply a preemptive Shade AoE 3 times small, but guarantees pain and poison, ignore resistance, and forever. Now, his 2 major 5-star moves is his Retribution. This one is a great move. Not only does it shade resist down 50%, it also increases his shade attack by 50%. And note that if he is in Lunatic mode, he will get a capped bonus of 100% up and 100% down. If you already use RCF with the 75 up and down with Grudge Spark, you'll know how powerful a move like this is. And not only that, it will then also restore his HP. So if he's done damage or taken damage earlier this turn, he can then regain that. And finally, his DPS move Deletion. Note that it does say 0 MP cost, and that's because it cannot be modified. 100 straight MP plus 10% of your max MP. At base level, you're talking about 220 MP damage use per move. Shade AoE ignored target magic defenses, not barrier pierce. And it'll attack up to 5 times until your MP runs out or all 5 times have gone. And it will not activate if you don't have enough to do 5 moves. So it'll stop at 3 or 4 or whatever it is. In Lunatic mode, does a ton more damage. Okay, so you can take a look at his 5-star board. And again, a reminder, no quests are needed in order to unlock his board. He doesn't have any personalities to share because we don't have any KMS Grasta yet. And in terms of customizing, I just went with some Lunatic extension, which is Power Benefique, as well as Bullseye on the Pain Grasta. So let's take him out for a spin. If you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. And I also do have a Patreon account for those who want to support me this way. Okay, so he has a lot of different ways of using AoEs to clear the enemy. The Retribution is a very low modifier and also only really useful as a setup for his main DPS attacks, being that it does, shade down, shade up 50% at very minimum. If you activate Lunatic, it now becomes 100%. And note that when he does take hits, 50% is shielded or taken as HP damage, 50% of the damage is taken as MP damage. And so that's a little bit of, you can see how that mechanic can be useful in terms of helping him survive, or detrimental if it drains all his MP. Now, keep in mind that he does have a sidekick, Kumos, which I didn't actually show you. However, Kumos actually has a lot of moves, and I will just show you after this part of the video. But mainly, it applies Break with its Overcome, which is really ridiculous, as well as applies things like reduce damage by 30% if you've damaged the enemy with magic, as well as magic resist down 20%, and that's stackable on top of other things, because I believe that's a separate status effect. Auras and kind of abilities from moves are not counted together, to my understanding. So pretty ridiculous nonetheless. Okay, back to the action. Toxicity, again, he has a lot of AoE DPS moves, so you can just choose the ones or one that you can like the most. I do find that in general, I would normally use Karma, Retribution, and Deletion, and just customize as needed, especially since most of the time you're not going to worry about mobs. It's mostly super boss fights that you are having trouble with. Okay, so in general, you do have to activate his Lunatic in order to really maximize his DPS, because his main move, Deletion, does require Lunatic in order to have maximum power. Then you can cast Retribution to power up his HP, because most of the time he will have taken some HP damage. And then finally, you can Karma to boost his speed and int and mental focus. And finally, just blast away with Deletion, which will do a ton of damage. And keep in mind that if he's in Lunatic, the Risk Taker Lunatic is the one that damages himself 20% and in exchange for a ton more damage. And that actually counts as damage towards him, which will count towards the MP regeneration. Alright, so back to Kumos. Now, note that mine is only level 79, but still more than adequate for his abilities. And so his Overcome, this stacks up to 5 times, and so there's maximum of 45 across the board for minus speed and minus shade type resistance. That is great for controlling the fight, especially if you are having enemies where they're faster than you. Note that it also restores MP by 10% or 20%, and it can charge based on moves as well as within magic and shade zone. Now, this final charge move, which is only 5 charges, so quite quick to get, you will get another round of Lunatic if you've already worn off, and it will change to Menace mode for Yakumo. So very similar to Minoka's specialized mode. For one turn, especially if you activate his main DPS, it will not consume MP. And finally, he has a lot of auras, which is great. This one, if you hit the enemy with magic damage, which is him, magic resist down 20, damage reduction attacking you is minus 30. So you're taking less damage while you're in the fight. Great ability. And finally, rejection, which I'm not sure how to activate. So if anyone has any idea what kind of special environmental effect this is, let me know in the comments below. I would be very interested in finding out how to do this. I tried it in a number of different areas and it didn't seem to work. Okay, so unfortunately, we do have to show some of these mechanics within the bag baddie system. And what I want to isolate here is that note that with Kumos' Overcome, it applies Break. And actually, if you look at the AE Wiki for English language, it does not say anything about Break. So you're going to take massive advantages there if you can, time your enemies' fights where your certain units, especially like a Neptune or something like that, will hit first, consuming the break, and then so on and so forth. Or you have other enemies or other teams where you can kind of reapply break over and over again. There's lots of units that can do that, and you can say, as I mentioned earlier, over 5 turns, the speed and shade resistance down continue to stack for a maximum value of 45 down, 45 down. Now, I know that he can, Yakumo can actually do 100% up and down. However, it's nice to have another ability to kind of augment that as needed, especially since he does suffer from 3 move syndrome, where he only has 3 slots, but you have lots of moves you want to choose. Now, one thing I wanted to demonstrate is that, surprisingly, if you have 2 buddies, aka Kumos in front and Tetra in the back, if the condition in the fight occurs, you actually get the benefit of both auras, which is super ridiculous. Anyways, just want to kind of show the potential in terms of damage with him, and also watch his MP consumption. It goes down really quickly, and so within AFs as well as outside AF, you really have to be mindful of how many hits based on his max MP or how much MP he has. You can recover it with multiple ways. Remember that Kumos can help you as well as Karma, his own move can do so. Otherwise, it's difficult to recover over 2,000 MP because that's how much he has. But if you do have full MP, essentially you can get 5 hits in. And even if you don't get 5 hits in, 3 or 4 hits is more than enough to end many fights as long as they don't absorb shade, magic, or damage or something like that. So with enough setup, keep in mind that, you can see the aura, that is Tetris aura. The max HP and MP plus 25%, and the physical and magic resistance plus 30%. Remember that Kumos can also give you, if you attack the enemies, they do 30% less damage to you, as well as magic resistance down 20. So remember now that with Tetra and Kumos in play, you have a type and physical shield 30, you have max HP and MP plus 25, and you're taking 30% less damage, not to mention any other scam units you are using with your scam team. Now, other than that, you can see that the fight ended without him even doing all 5 hits. 3 hits was more than enough, and to be fair, I mean, we are abusing AS Flam. I know I haven't done a 5-star review on her because I just side graded her as part of this, 5-star review. However, because she has been out for a while, I'm not planning to do a 5-star review of her. All you need to know is that she can boost, magic teams quite a bit with Magic Break, as well as, int, speed, and weapon damage plus 100%. Okay, so what I want to show you here is, in this example, we're going to do deletion first. And remember that by attacking with deletion, or any magic attack, Kumos will now allow you to have the benefit of magic resist down 20. Now, we're not using that here. What we're actually showing is that we are going to use Unchained, and this is the Overthrow ability of him. And so remember that Overthrow allows you to increase your damage against any enemies based on a random formula. The stronger the enemy is, the more boost you will get. And keep in mind that we have Mujima weapon, which also gives Overthrow. This is one of those unique situations that even though the moves are the same name, they actually do stack together. You can actually have both forms of Overthrow activate at the same time. Now, I believe that the reason for that is because one is a weapon source or gear source, and one is a unit source. So I'm not sure if Yakumo's Overthrow will combine with, for example, Ultra Tuva's Overthrow. Keep in mind that they usually won't be used on the same team anyways, unless you VC her in when there's Awakened Zone, like a lot of people do kind of after the HP stopper. Otherwise, not sure. Again, you can let me know in the comments below if it does stack that way. But for this demonstration, at least you can see that having those together can do quite a bit more damage. Like, I believe beforehand you were doing something in the 7 million range, and then after the Overthrow kind of like in the 11-12 million range. So there's a lot of ways for him to boost, because if you choose this one, you might not have room for Retribution. However, the shade up, shade down can be covered by other units like RCF or even Nakoko, and there's lots of variations of having shade, and not to mention Kumos can apply shade resist down anyway. So you have a lot of sources for that if you don't want to use Retribution. Retribution does heal him, so there is some advantage of using this. Now, in some more serious, or I'll say less serious fights, let's just say, we'll use a different type of scam team. The all-out magic scam team, but instead of having Eva on this team, we are now having Yakumo on this team, because Yakumo works extremely well with Iphi. And the main reason for that is that instead of him having to activate Risk Taker on his own, Blood Contract will give him the automatic Risk Taker, so all his abilities, including his main DPS deletion, will be active right off the bat turn 1 without activating Lunatic. And if by chance Blood Contract gets removed, hey, he can still activate his Lunatic either through his own Lunatic button, a VC, or his pet or sidekick once charge 5 hits. And remember that in Shade or Magic Zone, I believe it charges faster, so you can get it in less than 5 turns. In this quick demonstration, obviously with Iphi in play, Ultra Xion took the hit for the team, being that Blood Contract kind of sucked that up. And, you have Flam AS as well as Yakumo just killing off this True Manifest Asgario with absolutely no problem. Now, in this case, I would say that the setup in terms of the Grasta are not nearly as optimized. Some of these are remnants from previous fights, and so, for example, the water zone setting Grasta is not necessary for this fight. So, a lot of times I don't optimize for these kind of demonstrations, but it does really show you that at this level of the game now, with all these new units, you don't even have to fully optimize unless you're fighting super bosses, because they also scam you back, as I've mentioned many times before. Part of the reason why it can be frustrating to fight the newest rounds of Super Boss. And of course, Gary's just there because he needs to be there in order for us to kill him. Okay, in our second example, we'll fight the Divine Tree, which is another optional Super Boss that came from the more recent Tales collab. And the one trick about her is that she has a really high innate type resist shield. But guess what? We have lots of ways to reduce type resistance with RCF, and obviously magic resist down, and so on and so forth. If you watch this first turn AF, we are using Shade Zone, and in Shade Zone with the right setup, look at how many hits deletion did and how much damage it took off. So if you're using a one turn AF or even any turn AF, you don't necessarily use deletion in the first round of attacks. Use some other secondary attack instead, and when the time is right or near the end of the AF, when the damage modifier or the percentage combo meter is high enough, you'll unleash the deletion and it blasts over and over and over again. One thing I did not demonstrate is that remember that each hit of his deletion counts as one move, and inside a zone, it will charge with each hit up to 5 times. Keep in mind that that means up to 37.5% AF bar. With 5 hits, 5 times 7.5. And if you use 2 other moves of 7.5, that will allow 3 of your units, Yakumo with 5 hits as well as 2 single attacks from 2 other persons, to get another half bar AF right off the bat. So for example, you can 1 turn AF, then do Yakumo's 5 hits and 2 other attacks, and then you can 3rd turn AF again if needed. Of course, you do have to make sure he has full HP, and you can do that with things like Retribution and Karma, but I'm not sure how you can squeeze that into the AF. So something to keep in mind in either AF or non-AF strats. Okay. Now, one thing I also didn't do yet, I haven't side graded every unit out there for my team. I'm going to do that in the next week or so. Iphi AS would also be a very great choice in boosting the stats of Yakumo to do a tremendous amount of damage outside AF. Okay, so in our final example, we will take on the dual Hachios, and the reason for that is you can see some very unique mechanics. Now, normally we can tank the MP drain with someone like Pry or even Iphi using Blood Contract. Note that Yasuzumi only can take away 999 MP, and guess what? Yakumo has more than 999. He has 2,000 something. He will always have at least a half bar of MP left over to kill the mob, no problem at all. And of course, all you do need is to just blast away with deletion. Now, the other great thing about this demonstration is that with Kumos, with first turns where you're drained with MP, Kumo still recovers your MP by 10% and 20% on Yakumo accordingly. And remember that if Yakumo takes damage for whatever reason, either through risk taker attacks or through attacks against himself from the enemy, then he'll recover MP that way as well at the end of turn, which, since Yasuzumi's drain is at the beginning of the turn, then, you're going to have a way around that. And finally, we finished it off with one shot of Ultra Shion's, Perfection's magic attack, which exploits weakness and 3 times attacks. He is actually a very powerful DPS unit. It's just that we never see Ultra Shion mainly as a DPS. And take a look at this Grasta setup. Not even all 3 Grasta in play, and was able to blast away at the Tanuki. Absolutely no problem. I do realize that dual Hachos are much weaker and older than before. However, it's still fun to kind of use it to demonstrate some unique mechanics, especially that you can't drain more than 999. Now, for those who haven't caught my earlier video, I did also put up a solo clear of Yakumo versus the twins. I'll put that link in the description of my video. You can check that out. And again, just a reminder that the English voice acting is done by Josh Wichard. I'll put his socials in the description as well. Okay, so in conclusion, Yakumo is yet another scam unit in a history of scam units. His magic DPS is unparalleled, very high levels of DPS, concentrates only on shade, no secondary element, but does he really need it? No, not at all. And if you want to change his element, hey, just use AS Nakoko or something like that, and you'll have all the fun in the world with that. I can definitely identify with his bitterness, though. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.